The Bucks hosting the Pacers at 7 Eastern. Then Zion and the Pelicans take on Luka and the Mavs. Circle that one for sure.
Yeah.
Welcome back to The Jump. I'm George Sedano in for our fearless leader Rachel Nichols alongside Ramona Shelburne and Clinton Yates. It's now time to play one of America's favorite games here on The Jump. BS.
The ball deserves to go in the crowd after a bull move like that.
I think it's bull.
I just thought it was bull.
Don't give me that crap!
It's time for BS or Real Talk, where we give you quotes and then we give you emojis. First up, Brett Brown, who told reporters yesterday after practice he strongly believes Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons are destined for an NBA championship. Here's the quote: "I personally am convinced those two are going to win a championship at some point in their career, and they for sure can coexist. The myth is that they can't. I think that's so."
Expectations are, and look, Brett has two choices, okay? These are the guys that he's coached all the way through. He's the only coach they've ever had in the NBA. And he's brought these two guys along to this point. The championship expectations are there. That is what the whole process was for, is to get to this stage with two players of this caliber. So either he has to go all in and say, I'm riding with my guys, and if we win, we win together. If we lose, then one of us is probably gone, one or two of us, who knows? Yeah. Or he can start undermining one of them and trying to get him traded, right? If he thinks that they really can't coexist. He's obviously decided, I'm going with my guys, and I think that's reputable.
With Simmons hurt, I don't know if it's going to happen this year, but the question is Philly, where he's talking about this actually going down. I mean, look, he does have to believe this, though, and I believe it too. They're as good of a duo in the NBA as any other young pairing. Why wouldn't they be able to figure out? Simmons is still a guy that's learning his game. He's not the player he's going to be at the end of his career that he is right now, in my opinion.
I agree, like both of you, with Brett. My only question is, and I like Brett a lot, I think Brett's a good coach, but is Brett going to be around to see that come to fruition? And that, to me, is the big question.
Yeah, I think that's the question this year answers, right? I think the expectations with the signings that they've made with Al Horford, right, and Tobias Harris, the money they've given out to those four guys.
It hasn't worked out. Al Horford
so
situation hasn't worked out.
Yeah, no, it hasn't worked so far. So is the question, is it the surrounding pieces around Embiid and Simmons, or is it Embiid or Simmons, or is it Brett Brown?
Yeah.
This year, I think, tells the tale.
The truth usually lies somewhere in the middle, right? Like, that's generally
the truth lies with whoever's making the final call.
There's that, too. All right, next up, Jeannie Buss had this to say about why Dwight Howard left the Lakers the first time around. She said, quote, "I understand why he left, because we hired a coach that didn't respect his game and wasn't going to put him in a position to succeed." Is Jeannie Buss on Dwight's first Lakers tenure BS or Real Talk? Ready? Go.
What?
Yeah, go ahead. You go first. I'll tell you why it's BS.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, I've heard her say this several times before, just not publicly. So the fact that she said this at this Lakers All-Access event is amazing. Let's break this down. The coach they hired was Mike D'Antoni, who coaches the Houston Rockets now and might be a Lakers opponent in the second round.
Right.
Wow. Okay. Secondly, the coach they didn't hire was Phil Jackson, who Jeannie Buss was engaged to at the time.
Correct.
Okay. Whoa, let's revisit. And the person making the decision to hire Mike D'Antoni over Phil Jackson was her brother, Jim Buss, who is now no longer with the organization because she fired him.
Correct.
There is so much to that quote.
Which is what adds this all up to BS.
Right.
Come on now.
This is what I'm saying. D'Antoni since won a Coach of the Year award. Why are you doing this at this point? I mean, I get it. It's honest. It might be
That's
true.
honest.
She might believe it.
What is the
she
point?
believes it.
I don't understand why at this stage of this season with this squad in this scenario, this needs to come out at all.
She's got his back.
This is unbecoming, in my opinion, of what the Lakers are about, taking these kind of shots at a guy at this stage.
Now, look, Jeannie clearly believes it. I don't think there's any doubt. And, of course, she should take up for Dwight. So that aside, Mike D'Antoni also thought he was getting a Dwight Howard who was as dominant a pick-and-roll player as there was. And he was bringing in Steve Nash to run it with him. And then Dwight's like, nah, I want to post up. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's not all on Mike D'Antoni that Dwight didn't want to do what he was brought in to do. Like, that's all I'm saying. Like, Jeannie may be right that it may be ultimately up to the coach to put them in the best position, but Dwight wasn't cooperating with what Mike had envisioned for that team to do.
That's 100% true.
Yeah.
Because they ran the numbers. Like, I remember speaking to Jim Buss on this at the time, and they ran the numbers of hire a coach who says, no, actually, we're going to change the way basketball's played.
Right. All right, let's move on. Last up, Lloyd Pierce didn't love his team's effort last night in a blowout loss at home to the Grizzlies. Here's Pierce after the game. Take a listen.
I got nothing for you guys. You can ask away. I got nothing for you.
I don't know what to teach. You can't teach effort. You can talk about it. Effort is effort. Yep.
All right, then. BS or real talk? Go. Whew. Real talk.
Real talk. Not only is that a broken man and a broken team, that is a broken media corps. Do you see how they respected the complete lack of questions? The guy got up there and they just stared at him. Oh, that's tough. I mean, the Hawks are terrible. Grizzlies started that game 0 for 11, and they still got blown out by 40 points, the Hawks did. Like, that, to me, I think he's right. You can't – what are you supposed to do about that if you're the coach? It's the NBA. You know, the guys – connecting with guys is half the issue. We saw what happened with Beeline in Cleveland, and if he doesn't feel that he's connecting with them, what is he going to say? That was a remarkable piece of tape on a lot of levels.
Yeah, I mean, I feel bad for him because, like, the Hawks, to me, are one of the most disappointing teams in the NBA this year. They were poised to make that jump. They were like everybody's, like, sleeper pick to sneak into the playoffs this year, and it has not happened. And I think Lloyd feels terrible about it. It's, you know, I think he had done a really nice job with them before this, and it's inexplicable how bad they've been this year. I know they went out and made a trade just to try to even get better. Now Capella's not there, right? But he's injured. But they're not trying to lose.
Right.
Like, they're not trying to tank. They've made moves over the course of the last 2 years where if they wanted to tank, they could have tanked. But they believe in creating a winning culture and trying to continue developing, and they have not done that.
All right, here's what The Jump recommends for today. Kirk Goldsberry has a piece on ESPN.com and the ESPN app that breaks down the problems behind Trae Young's signature play, despite putting up eye-popping numbers. So make sure you check it out here during the break.
Brad Beal's going to retweet that.
Never mind Trevor Ariza.
Definitely, I think so. But, you know, that's how we want to play all the time. Unfortunately, we do not do that. But tonight could be what we look like. I mean, that's a really good team over there, and they've been doing really great things all year long on both sides of the floor, home and away. So we take away from this that we can compete at the highest level, but we know that we have to play this way every day here on out.
So, Ramona, how excited should Heat fans be after this win?
Oh, I think that was a big win. I think that was what you would call a statement win because, the Heat have kind of been scuffling a little bit lately, but they've been really good at home, and they've been pretty good against the Bucks. And I think the way that they defended Giannis is a blueprint that a lot of coaches are going to be stealing from. Like, that game tape is going to be circulating around the league for the next couple of weeks because, one, I think you need Bam Adebayo to have a game the way he did against Giannis, but in order to play that kind of defense. But they did some things in the way they defended him that I think other teams can steal from. And if you're Mike Budenholzer, you've got to study that tape and develop some counters if you're going to see teams like this in the playoffs.
They also forced him to settle for jump shots. I mean, that was the main thing, and he took the bait, which is not something I think he's going to do all the time. You got to force other guys on the Bucks to try to score, and they did that. But overall, this was a great win. I mean, wire to wire. I don't think there was any point where I thought the Bucks were going to win this game, and that's something to me that says as much about what the Heat have done as anything. I mean, Kelly Olynyk going off, that's something we've seen before, not something you expect to see every night. But it was the manner in which they won it in terms of controlling the game, not just defensively. Overall, they looked like a team that knew what they were doing and will not be scared if they face up against them in a playoff.
The Heat aren't scared. I think they believe if they can get to the last 5 minutes of the game, especially after these trades that they made, that they can be in a real fight with these guys night in and night out. And offensively, I think they feel they're very comfortable with where they're at. And defensively, they were wondering if this was going to be able to manifest itself into the type of performance we saw yesterday. And maybe, as Jimmy pointed out, it's something you see more often from them, but it hasn't been the case during the regular season. But here, look at this. I mean, Bam, you pointed it out, Ramona, 1 of 10, right? Giannis was shot 1 of 10 against him. But in some of these other clips we saw, Andre Iguodala guarding him a little bit, and then Goran Dragic would come and swipe at him, right? They showed him a lot of different looks, even when Bam was guarding him and when he wasn't guarding him.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that when you have a great defender like Bam, there's not many defenders like Bam Adebayo in this league that can take a guy like Giannis and go one-on-one against him. But they showed him a lot of different looks, and they did that thing. Usually what you do with Giannis is
build the wall.
You build a wall. You just say, okay, go around. We're not letting you get through the paint. they didn't build the wall. They just kind of like showed the wall. Right. And so they would show it, and then they would pull it back, and it was, I don't want to say it was confusing, but what they did is exactly what we said, Clinton. They dared him to settle for mid-range jumpers, and that's when you're Giannis and you're as good as you are in the paint. That is settling. Yeah. And he has proven this year that he can make those, but that's not what the Bucks want to be doing.
It was their best defensive execution. It was their best defensive game of the season for me from an execution and a scheme standpoint. Sometimes you don't put those two things together. Both of those happened last night, and that's what happened with the Bucks. Yeah,
for sure. And to your point, Ramona, it kind of was like the wall was like an accordion, right? It kind of expanded in and out occasionally depending on what was happening, because they did a nice job of getting out to the three-point shooters too. In the first half, Milwaukee shot only 25% against them, and Giannis had only scored 6 points. So, they had done a good job, as you pointed out, Clinton, wire to wire against them. And this is what Pat Riley envisioned, right? When he made those deals, he felt like, you know what, this thing can be had. That the Bucks may have some holes, right? Particularly Giannis in his game offensively. And if we can kind of find a way to stay in these games against them, maybe we do sneak out of the Eastern Conference. I think the problem with that is everybody in the East seems to have their own kryptonite. Like Miami can't seem to be Boston. Boston seems to have their number. Miami, at least in the regular season, seems to have Milwaukee's number. And it just kind of flips around like that, where there's not one team where I feel like it's completely dominant depending on the opponent.
Also, I mean, look, this is a one-night situation. They've played them twice over the span of a season. I don't know that the Bucks, when you get on them 2-3 games in a row, are going to have that kind of performance against the Heat in the same things. I'm not taking everything from the Heat. But they go into this series potentially in the playoffs knowing that they have at least one thing that can work, which is sometimes all you need in order to be able to get by.
I'm real curious to see what Milwaukee does with this, because they have another big game coming up this week.
Lakers
on Friday. They beat the Lakers in Milwaukee. The Lakers, of course, were at the end of a road trip and maybe didn't give that everything. But the Lakers have a guy who can do a reasonable approximation of what Bam Adebayo did and Anthony Davis. Now, he's been a little banged up, but if the Lakers throw the same kind of defense at them, I think then we do say there is a blueprint.
Yeah, I could see Frank Vogel taking a page out of Eric Spoelstra's book and doing something there. All right. Let's check out who was in the zone. Brought to you by AutoZone. C.J. McCollum was in the zone last night, tying a season high with 41 points against the Magic. McCollum is averaging 33 points per game over his last 6. And Portland's been without Dame in those particular games. The Trailblazers are 3.5 games out of the 8th spot in the West and getting healthier. So, Ramona, are we sleeping on the Blazers' chances here to make the playoffs?
I haven't been sleeping on them. That's the team that I've always thought was going to sneak into that 8th spot. I know that everybody likes the Pelicans in there. That would be a great matchup for the league. That would be so many great storylines. But to me, with that veteran team, it's hard for me to count them out. It's hard, especially with Dame appearing to be close to coming back from that injury. If they can stay healthy, and they have a second easiest schedule down the stretch, it's hard for me to see them miss the playoffs.
Yeah, but between Nurk, Dame, and then Zach Collins, who to me is the most important player on this team from an injury standpoint, maybe only because when he went out early in the season, it was like, well, I'm not sure how far they can go because of him defensively and rebounding inside. He, to me, is as important as either one of those other two getting back in terms of how well they can operate on offense and on defense. I don't think that without him, they're going to be able to be a major playoff chance. And so I'm not sleeping on him. I'm just waiting for him to get healthy.
I'm just going to say, okay, Zach Collins is important. But
he's not Dame. Let's slow down a little bit.
I love you, though.
No, but from a chemistry standpoint.
My point is that from a chemistry standpoint, they're not getting that far anyway if he doesn't get back. Sure, they might be a better team by a lot with Dame, but if without Zach, I'm not counting them to go anywhere.
Yeah, and offensively, he helps them stretch the floor from that position. I get what you're saying when it comes to that. But I'm in on the Pelicans at this point. 538 has them as the team that's going to get into the 8th spot. I think that they're playing really well since Zion's been back. They went from in the games that he's played, they were the 23rd ranked defense. Now they're a top 10 defense since he's been back. We know what he does on the offensive end for them. So I just feel like the Pelicans are trending in the right direction, and there are a lot of questions about the Blazers with the health. It's if they get healthy, right? To me, that's the thing.
Yeah, I would like to see the Pelicans in that 8th spot, right? I think
so would everybody in this league.
And all of that's the easiest schedule, the way they've played once Zion's been back. It's just I have this faith in Dame Lillard just because I've seen the man's
The schedule is a big thing for me for the Pelicans. That team getting it back together with Zion coming the way he is, I think that helps them a lot. It's obvious, but I think it's real.
Yeah, Dame can drag them there. There's no doubt. Coming up, Spike Lee says he's done going to Knicks games for the rest of this season. Is it smart for the Knicks to potentially isolate their most famous fan? Well, we'll discuss that. Stick around. But first, it's time for our distant review.